Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a deeply fascinating presentation originally delivered by Father Fabrizio Colombo at the SIGNIS World Congress. We're going to explore a topic that is literally dominating every newsfeed and water cooler conversation right now, artificial intelligence. But we're looking at it through a very specific, highly ethical lens. The core question this source material tackles is this: how can we ethically intersect the raw computing power of AI with authentic, lived human expression? We're going to dive into how Catholic media formation, specifically through the lens of CREC International, is navigating this absolute whirlwind of a technological shift.
Right out of the gate, we're hit with a massive paradigm shift from the source material. We hear so much anxiety about artificial intelligence, right? But this presentation immediately flips the script. It argues that we need to stop viewing AI purely as a threat or just some unpredictable risk that needs to be heavily managed and contained. Instead, we really need to start seeing it as a vast, expressive canvas. It's a creative force to be embraced. But, and this is a really vital caveat here, we can only embrace it on the condition that we are actively formed and educated to use it properly.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. When we talk about embracing machine capacity, the immediate fear is that the machine is just going to replace the human. But AI doesn't replace creativity, it releases its reach. The true creative act doesn't begin in the algorithm, and it definitely doesn't begin in a line of code. It begins deeply within human interiority. It starts with you, the person. The machine simply meets that human depth with its immense capacity. It's like adding a megaphone to your inner voice.
Which brings us to this really beautiful foundational concept from the presentation. It's a theological anchor called Magnifica Humanitas. Essentially, this principle assures us that our innate human magnificence, our dignity, our creativity, that unique spark we all have, is not somehow diminished just because we invent and use incredibly powerful tools. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Our humanity is meant to be released and amplified by these tools. Whether you're holding a physical paintbrush or directing a generative algorithm, the tool doesn't overshadow the human, it just becomes an entirely new channel for the human spirit to express itself.
Let's break down what this actually looks like in concrete reality. AI allows a single, solitary human vision to instantly explode across multiple dimensions. Think about it. You start with one human idea, but suddenly you can write across a dozen different formats. You can build entire visual worlds from scratch. You can tell one single story, but instantly translate and adapt it into 6 different languages. You can make a simple, quiet reflection fully immersive, and you can compose all of this at a speed that was literally impossible a few years ago. AI multiplies the expression, for sure, but the human vision always remains the source.
So, the potential is undeniably massive. We've got this incredible engine of multiplication at our fingertips. But how do we navigate all of this without losing our humanity in the process? Well, that brings us to part 2, the compass.
The source material offers us a literal compass for our journey. Drawing on the legacy of Father Pierre Babin, who founded CREC, it points us toward what is called the symbolic way. And this is a framework for navigating media that doesn't just obsess over raw data or text. Instead, it heavily emphasizes atmosphere, human feeling, rhythm, voice, and symbol. It's a completely different way of evaluating the media we both produce and consume every single day.
Because here's the thing. In this new era of generative AI, we have to elevate our communication by recognizing a critical difference. On one hand, we have information, and let's be real, AI is incredibly good at this. It's instant, it's fluent, it's personalized, and it's factually correct. But it is fundamentally bodiless. It has no soul. On the other hand, we have resonance, and this is what we absolutely must strive for. Resonance is felt. It carries actual lived experience. It creates a modulated atmosphere. We have to move from merely generating bodiless information to crafting deeply felt resonance.
Why? Because, as the presentation brilliantly insists, before a message is ever logically decoded and understood by the brain, it is felt by the person. Elements like image, rhythm, voice, and atmosphere, they aren't just window dressing used to decorate a message and make it look pretty. They actually carry the message. This forces us to ask a much deeper question of our media. Pierre Babin's question isn't just, hey, is this doctrinally correct? The real question we must ask is, how does it feel?
To really grasp why this is so important, we have to recognize AI not merely as a discrete tool that we pick up and put down when we're done. No, the source describes AI as an entire milieu, a totally encompassing environment. Just think about how our patience for reading long texts has fundamentally changed over the last decade. This environment radically reorganizes our attention, our memory, our sense of authorship, and yes, our patience. If we aren't careful, this environment threatens to teach faith, or really any deep human truth, purely as cold, sterile information, simply because the machine is so effortlessly fluent at delivering facts without feeling.
And honestly, this leads us to what is arguably the most critical, conscience-probing question of this entire explainer. When we encounter heavily simulated AI content, maybe it's a breathtaking AI-generated video or a perfectly synthesized human voice, we have to stop in our tracks and ask, whose experience does this carry?
If we ask, whose experience does this carry, and the honest answer is no one's because it was entirely hallucinated by a machine, then we have a serious problem. As the source states, a machine simulation can imitate the surface of reality perfectly, but without carrying true, lived experience, it is entirely hollow. It might decorate our screens and look really cool, but it cannot truly mediate meaning or authentic human connection.
So to protect that meaning, the presentation establishes a kind of golden rule for production in the AI age. The human person must be the author. The human uniquely owns the intention, the discernment, the intuition, and provides the raw material, their actual photograph, their authentic voice, their real story. Meanwhile, the machine assists. The AI handles the execution, the adaptation into different languages, the rapid iteration, and all that heavy-lifting technical production. But what must remain fiercely human is authorship, even when the execution is handed over to the machine.
The presentation firmly reminds us that creating true symbols requires two things a machine simply does not have: a physical body and a community. Body plus community equals a true symbol. Because of this, the human editor must always be the one who sits at the center of the process and decides the final meaning of the material. The machine can propose ideas all day long, but the human must ultimately decide.
Looking to the future, the presentation outlines an incredibly inspiring path forward called the Africa Mandate. It points out that symbols aren't just easily copy-pasted across different cultures, and that represents a massive, thrilling opportunity for organizations like CREC Africa. They have a mandate to actively champion multilingual expression and participation. Crucially, we've got to ensure that these AI models learn directly from local, lived communities, rather than having some homogenized, generic global culture passively imposed on them from the outside.
To achieve all of this, CERC is positioning itself very strategically. It's not operating as a passive supplier of technology, just handing out software licenses. Instead, it's acting as an active school of formation, a real network hub. They have a clear communal mandate to navigate this wild new landscape together through 3 simple building steps. Number 1, pilot together. Number 2, learn together through shared discernment. And number 3, pass it on to local practices.
This entire presentation gives us such a vital, grounding framework. Look, AI is a remarkable creative force, and it undeniably expands the palette of what we can create faster than ever before. But as we embrace this incredible new technology, I want to leave you with this final thought from the source material to really chew on. The artist remains irreducibly human. So no matter how vast your technological canvas becomes in the coming years, what steps will you take today to ensure your art, your work, and your message remain irreducibly human? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. We'll see you next time.